The Orlando Insight Meditation Group is a group of individuals led by Peter Carlson, a licensed mental health counselor, in their search for spiritual fulfillment in their everyday lives. The group practices a secular form of Buddhism. In 1992, about 10 years after taking his first Buddhist meditation retreat, Peter decided to bring a version of that practice to Orlando by starting Orlando Insight Meditation Group.
This fellow that we call the Buddha did not set out to start a religion. He was really trying to understand the human condition and transcend it.
Though Peter's form of Buddhism is not religious, it is spiritual nonetheless. Peter leads his group through everything from classes that introduce new followers to using Buddhist meditation to control one's thoughts and emotional range, what he calls spiritual mindfulness, to advanced week-long meditation retreats in which his members take part in lengthy sessions of silent meditation.
Being secular, it just means that it's not institutionalized and it's open to all these different things. The other thing that's really interesting about this particular time on the planet in Buddhism is that the different schools of Buddhism have operated in geographically different areas for many centuries and developed different kind of subsets of practice that each have their value. The way that Tibetans approach it, there's some things about that are really, really valuable. The way the Burmese approach it, some things about it that are really, really valuable. They're somehow different than what the Tibetans do. Yes. Well, guess what? We're all sitting here, and I can sit at my laptop and go to the internet,
Google,
and Google it, and I can read about what the Tibetans are saying. I can read about what the Burmese are saying. I can read about what the Japanese are saying, and the Koreans, and it all gets amalgamated.
He teaches the three jewels of Buddhism as well as the concepts of karma and yoga. His talks encourage members to liberate their minds and lives from unnecessary worry, sadness, and hate.
They've done research on this. People who have a deep spiritual commitment and have a group of like-minded people generally don't get ill as often and don't have as many accidents and heal more quickly when they are injured. Now it's coming to America, or the West, let's say. But America is where we are. So it's influenced by Judeo-Christian tradition.
Definitely.
It's influenced by psychology, probably more so than anything.
Definitely, yeah.
It's influenced by feminism. There are far more female authorities, teachers, authors, and so forth, who are women in the U.S. teaching Buddhism than there are in the Orient. So that influence is there, and there's much less of an emphasis on hierarchy, at least at this stage.
Yes.
There are people who are respected for their attainments, not for their positions.
Peter's had people come and go. It's a very, fluid thing, but isn't life fluid anyway?
People in this group who are practitioners of Zen Buddhism. There's not anybody right now practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism. There's some people who are Quakers, and so forth and so on. So all these different traditions are kind of feeding, the great melting pot that we talk about, that's America. In here. And in places like this is not all that different than many places around the country.
Yeah.
So it's evolving. It's very dynamic, and all these different traditions are coming together in this incredibly rich mix of practices and concepts and doctrines. And I think that that's very valuable in feeling tone. When you watch the breath going in and out of the nostrils, it's not pleasant, it's not unpleasant, but it's always present. So when you intend to watch the breath with curiosity, we're trying to give the attention a stable resting place, and that creates a flow of tranquility in the body and quietness in the mind. There's what we call a practice of vipassana, or insight. And that's when we're practicing watching the breath, we're very deliberately bringing attention to the changing sensation of the breathing. It It might be a vibration, or it might be a sound, or it might be a feeling of coolness. But whatever the sensation is, it's going to change. So we cultivate an ongoing curiosity about the nature of that change. That alerts the mind. It makes the mind more activated. Not with adrenaline, but with curiosity. I figured this out 30 years ago. You know, somehow or other I managed to get in ahead of the curve, so to speak. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. It just feels like I've somehow or other been blessed. Because I had the curiosity and someone gave me a gift of a book that I read and I responded to. 30 years ago, today I was in the middle of my first meditation retreat in Massachusetts, which I think, you know, it's a blessing.
His members have seen the effects of changing their thought process to align them with the Buddha. As the thoughts that become the actions that made their lives harder start to go away, so do many conflicts and disappointments.
It affects my moods. If I don't meditate, if I don't stay focused to what I'm studying or what I'm doing or what he's teaching or whatever, I get consumed with the things that cause us to suffer.
To sum up, using Peter's own words, we live in exciting times spiritually. With the onset of the digital age, there is an increasing and mutual dialogue between the religions of the world, through which a common understanding of the nature of spiritual development is emerging. Additionally, primarily due to the active enthusiastic interest of the Dalai Lama, the insights produced by 25 centuries of Buddhist practices are being explored by modern science, particularly in the areas of psychology, medicine, and physics.